these events that we are planning to do online, because, I mean, of the obvious, there's no travel because COVID-19, which brings us to the topic of the panel here today, which is the effects of COVID-19 on the African internet. Basically, what we've seen in the past few months, how it's impacted our lives, what we've seen in terms of how we work, how we buy stuff, how our children get educated, and basically reflecting on what that means for the internet. And hopefully we get some good insights on how things are. I see Mitch saying we're recording, so that's great. If I can get the next slides. Yeah, so this is me. I will be moderating the session. Yes, perfect. So yes, the agenda. Like I said, first we start out with a bit of a welcoming note, which I'm currently doing now. Then we have the panel of experts. As you can see, we have 4 experts that you may recognize their names from different walks of the industry. We have service providers, we have exchange points, we have cloud and work from home enablers, and we have e-commerce providers. And we'll go into their profiles in a second here. So that will be the majority of the session that we will have. We will allow for at least, hopefully, 30 minutes of Q&A. So each speaker will give some intervention about what they've seen during the past few months. And then we'll go into Q&A, which we rely on you, the audience, to actually put your questions in the Q&A section here that you see in the chats. Finally, we end up with closing, and what we are piloting for the first time here is a peering personnel's, a very light version of it. There was requests from the community for us to actually do something like this, as we normally do in regular meetings. So we're trying to test out how this works out for this event. And if it works out, which we hope it does, then we'll do more of these in the future series coming up. Next slide, please. So yes, how to engage, and engagement is quite important here. So first thing is you should be able to follow us on either the English channel or the French channel. And we were very keen on doing this when we, as the program committee, were looking into doing this, because we wanted to make sure that everybody felt included and can actually participate in either English or French, the language that they feel a lot more comfortable with. So even if you have questions that you write in the chat room in French, we have Gilan with us here. He will help do the translation for us Anglophone folk. The chat rooms, there is the chat room that the attendees here are already utilizing. I see there's already at least 16 chats on there that people can actually start communicating or putting certain comments on, and so on and so forth. I'm explaining online meeting tools, but I'm sure a lot of you have already done a lot of these, but it's good to go through them as well. You also have the section on the Q&A chat, where you can actually post your questions there. And again, Gilan will be helping us in collecting them and putting them together when we end up doing that. For you social media enthusiasts, we have a few hashtags. I don't do social media myself, but these are the hashtags. Please tweet about us, tell the world that we're doing this. And of course, the session will be recorded for future use, but also live streamed for everybody as well. So these are all the different engagement tools that we've had aligned for you, trying to take full advantage of what the internet has to offer here. Next slide, please. Yes, so the peering personnel bit that I mentioned, so we are re-imaging it in a bit. Like I said, there was some feedback from the community saying, so initially taking a step back from there, initially when we as the program committee for the Africa Peering Forum, with COVID coming up and the concerns about we're not going to have the meeting, we were discussing, do we just have an online event? Do we end up doing a series events, which we clearly ended up doing? What components can go into this? And a big part of what we were discussing for a long time was, this is a peering forum. People come here to meet up and discuss and do business. And can we do bilaterals? Should we organize bilaterals? How can we do something like that? And we ended up back and forth, but like I said, recently we got a lot of feedback from the community saying we really want this peering personnel's bit. So we are working out the kinks, and hopefully we can get that done. We have a few people lined up, and basically peering personnel's, as you all know, you put your ASN, your organization, your contact information. You have less than a minute to say, this is who I am, and please contact me if you're interested in peering. And yes, we need your feedback on this. And if you're interested in doing this for future events, let us know and we'll do that. Next slide, please. So yes, the session itself, effects of COVID-19, and getting into the meat of stuff. Next slide, if we can get that. So basically, this webinar is looking at how different sectors have been affected with COVID-19. And what we try to paint a picture of is the digital economy value that the internet brought forward. There's a lot of things to be said about, a lot of people doing a lot of online streaming and entertaining and entertainment and gaming and stuff. And as somebody that actually was quarantined for like 3 weeks because I had COVID-19 earlier this year, I know better than anybody else without binge watching. Without binge watching and playing games, I would have gone out of my mind. So it personally saved my life. But what we're focusing on here now is more of the aspect of how did life continue with the unprecedented lockdowns. I don't think anybody has predicted that we would, last year when we were doing our plans of all the travels and all the business that we would be doing, nobody actually predicted that we would be doing a conference like this online and we'd be following it. But it also spilled into everything else. Like I was saying earlier, education, how our children ended up getting their education and continuing it online with remote education, how our buying habits and how we dealt with the internet moved from mainly an entertainment source to something that if we do not have it, we will not get our groceries, or we will not be able to buy the necessities and even luxuries. How our payment methods change from actual currency into e-payment bits. How our work habits have changed, not going into the office for months at a time. And basically, the discussion that we're going to get into now, hopefully the experts can give us some insights and glimpses into how the internet actually managed to continue and help us with our survival, basically, in a way that we've grown accustomed to our entire life. And hopefully by doing so, they provide us some useful insights into how the internet actually performed and can be developed even further. So next slide, please. I promised I would introduce my panelists. We have Ben Roberts. He is Chief Technical Officer from Liquid Telecom, bringing that service provider perspective, as I said. Next slide. We have Kyle Spencer, that is the Executive Director at the Ugandan Exchange Point, but he also represents the African IXP Association, and he will be talking a little bit about what we've been seeing in general across the board in Africa with at the exchanges, with some examples maybe closer to home that he's prepared. Next slide. We have Brett Lewin, who is the Manager of Interconnection Strategy at Microsoft. Like I said, talking about the Teams, the streaming services and the video conferencing service that they had, and the other capacity working from home enabling bits that they brought forward and that they saw. Last slide. We have Dave Omorgo, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He's VP Technology of Operations and Supply Chain at Konga, which is an online shopping platform, and he will be bringing that online e-commerce section forward to us. And like I said, last but not least, we have a decent section of Q&A, which we really depend on you to bring your questions forward with this. Next slide. Yeah, so at that point, our first panelist is Ben Robert. Actually, Ben is one of the brave people that actually ventured into flying these days. He's actually on a plane and he'll be doing his intervention from a plane. Again, one of the advantages the internet gave us, saying connecting while we're online. But he did send us a video that we'll be playing now, and he will be available for Q&A. So if we can get Ben's video, please. And like I said, Ben will be talking from the service provider perspective on what they saw in terms of traffic shaping and movements and how the habits have changed. I don't think we have audio.
No audio. Okay.
I'm sorry. Give me a sec because I do have the audio. I'm not sure what's going wrong. Can you hear it now?
No.
Oh, wait, let me check. Select camera.
So while Joanna is trying to get that sorted out, like I said, what we are basically looking into here is how the internet performance have changed, and Ben will be giving a count, not just looking at what happened at Liquid Telecom and the offices, but he will also be looking into how they actually managed to support stuff like the e-education and e-commerce and other bits, and basically how traffic ended up moving around. Well, so yes, so while we are waiting on that, maybe one of the things that I can do is maybe acknowledge the sponsors that helped us organize this event, and to whom we owe stuff like the lovely interpretation that you see here and other supporting functions that you see. You can see them behind me here on the banners that we have here. So we have Flex Optics, there's Liquid Telecom, and last but not least, we also have NAP Africa. All three are our sponsors here, plus, of course, all the lovely work that the ISOC staff has put forward to getting this meeting organized and, like I said, available in both languages.